Noah wrote the story of Newstruck and said rumbus and pangas. And rumbus, people in Uganda don't know what that is. Let alone Kigali. Yes, I can hear you. What are you saying? Okay. Sawa. Okay. So what story are we coming back with? Simon.
Yep.
Is Simon sound okay? Simon,
Mine's-
Simon,
yes,
him.
Yeah.
This
mine.
is Simon. Yours is fine. Dr. Mohammed, yours is the one that has a problem.
Mohammed, can I introduce myself again?
Yes.
Unapata?
And
Mohammed Omar.
is that better?
Washa tu zote.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to come back and do some stories. We can tease them. We can tease them, then do the stories, then come back to the. Yes. 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 Yeah. Yes. In fact, she was saying that you can call her now because they fixed their connection. So, yeah. Please. Innocent Nabasa. Yes, she's a chick. Yes, she's a chick. Please. Okay. Okay. What stories are we starting with? Welcome back. You are tuned into KTN News and the show is Business Today. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. On this Friday, we are shortly going to be speaking to two gentlemen who are seated with me here. And one of them is a gadgets guru, or do we say local innovator here in Kenya. He has invented very interesting gadgets here. You want to tell us briefly what these are before we can move on to other stories? What exactly is this?
Okay. Once you can see at the end of the day, that zone is packaged is a fully car tracking fleet management system that is locally made, and along with it is the boards that are brought along just to show the technologies behind local innovation, because many of the times that you predict that this one has been made from Kenya and people are like, this thing we predict is not actually done in here.
Right.
So these are some of the processes that I always show, and some of the motherboards that I've already made.
So this is the car tracking system
Yes, it's a
that
full
we've
product, yeah.
always known as a cutout.
Yes.
All right. And we're also joined by Dr. Mohammed Omar, who is the Director Economic Pillar at Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat. Thank you so much both for joining us. And the conversation we're going to be having is around innovation, engineering and manufacturing in Kenya. So you don't want to miss out on that conversation. But let's take a look at some stories now. The politics of it aside, many farmers in the Kenya sugar belt have abandoned the cane for other crops. From the tale of two farmers, we tell you why parting with the cane in Western Kenya is not always sweet sorrow.
The love affair between sugarcane and Western Kenya has been a long-standing one, especially after the 1970s. There's hardly a homestead where you'll go and you won't find cane. But this relationship has become bittersweet, with farmers leaving sugarcane for other crops. High noon at Handidi village, Lurambi, Kakamega. For 14 years, 67-year-old Daniel Mangale planted cane on his 3-acre farm, selling most of it to West Kenya Sugar Factory. In his prime, a good harvest would fetch 4,000 shillings per ton, and he would earn 80,000 shillings. Then it dwindled to 2,800 shillings, and then further downward. He has given up and now prides in growing banana, maize, cassava, vegetables, and animal husbandry.
Wengi wameamua kuitoa. Hata mimi nimetoa sehemu ingine. Na ngojea siku moja nikipata permit nitoe hii, sitarudia mambo ya miwa tena. Ni hasara kwa sababu ikiwa kubwa sana vile huko ndani imelala. Sasa ikilala inafanya ndani ya miwa inakuwa ni haina nini, ndani haijashikana, imewachana, ni kama pipe ndani. Sasa hiyo haina uzito.
It's been a bumper harvest for 50-year-old Ali Akutu Opio in Shiro, Butere. He has so much maize, he tells me he isn't sure where he will store all of it. His farm spans 8 acres, an area of variety: maize, banana, rice, pumpkin, which still yields calabashes, soybean, traditional vegetables, beans, sisal. And he also produces biogas on a small scale. But Ali used to plant sugarcane before. He did so well that in 2004, he says, Mumias Sugar Company awarded him for being the most extraordinary farmer in his zone, yielding 145 tons per acre above the set 50. Even decorated, Ali gave up on sugarcane.
Ndio nilikuwa nikipatako pesa kidogo, lakini hata hiyo pesa haikuwa ikinisaidia kwa sababu kwa hiyo eka 1.5 hiyo, saa zingine unaweza patiwa kitu kama 4,000. Hiyo ndio maneno ilinikasirisha, nikafanya nini? Nikang'oa hiyo miwa, nikasema sasa hata vile nafanya bure, nafanya tu kazi bure.
But Ali was wooed back by the plant. Only this time he was wiser in his land tenure, setting apart 1.5 acres instead, with training and support from Agrix ICS that has input and extension support services such as seed and fertilizer. He began to thrive, something many others lack. But why go back to cane?
Ndio sababu nimerudia miwa, kwa sababu miwa wanakuja wana harvest, kama umefanya vizuri wanaweka nini? Wanakuwekea tu pesa kwa account, ni wenyewe ndio wanafanya kazi huko. Lakini itakuja hasa ufune, mara ukongo inataka uweke nini, uweke dawa.
Others in the larger belt want nothing to do with cane completely. What's left of what Daniel uprooted is 22 months old. He says 2 months from now he will uproot it. I ask his grandchildren if they ever wish to be cane farmers. The answer is a growing seasonal trend. Cane, however, is still an integral part of this region's way of life. Families have been sustained by it. There's no one answer to the question of whether this region should turn its back on cane, because every farmer has a different story. Dorcas Wangira, KTN News, Kakamega.
Thanks, Dorcas. Africa's largest biogas plant is now pumping 2 megawatts to the national grid. Built by Tropical Power, the plant will use 50,000 tons farm waste annually to produce biogas. The 765 million shilling green project has installed capacity of 2.6 megawatts and plans to minimize pollution by using the waste product from the digester as fertilizer for flower farms in Naivasha. Moreover, the plant will reduce carbon emissions by saving up to 5 million litres of diesel annually that would have been used by ordinary plant. The biogas project is the first of 4-phase plans that will see Tropical Power also construct a 10-megawatt solar power project by 2016. The project will contribute to the government efforts to reduce its reliance on the more expensive thermal power and instead generate an additional 5,000 megawatts mainly from green sources like geothermal, wind and solar by 2017.
And more importantly, it's going to contribute to our country economic policy and energy policy of adding more power to our grid.
I think we will see huge improvements in energy efficiency, which reduce energy bills. I think we will see the falling away of subsidies for fossil fuels, which of course distort energy bills. And I think that when those two things are done, renewable energy will actually be able to compete and hold its own.
Standard Chartered Bank has become the second bank to back the trend posted by its peers in the banking sector by posting a 36% decline in net profits in the 6 months to June 2015. The bank was weighed down by an increasing burden of non-performing loans, which saw net profit fall from 6.06 billion shillings last year to 3.9 billion shillings. The bank raised its loan provision by 51.3% to about 1.3 billion Kenya shillings, even though the bank's non-performing loans fell from 8.3 billion compared to 14.6 billion in a similar period last year. The bank's loan book also shrank in the period from 131 billion to 123 billion, which ate into the company's interest income. However, customer deposits grew 11% in the period from 147 billion shillings to 163 billion shillings. CFC Stanbic Bank posted a similar trend in profits last week after profits fell 34% to 1.96 billion shillings. And now a new report from Gartner shows that Apple has increased its smartphone market share last quarter, even though global sales grew at the slowest pace since 2013. But how did they achieve this feat? Let's find out more in this report.
Apple is taking a bite out of Samsung's market share. The iPhone maker grabbed 14.6% of worldwide sales in the second quarter, according to market research firm Gartner. That is up from 12.2% a year earlier. Rival Samsung moved in the opposite direction, its share falling to just under 22% from about 25%. iPhone sales rose 36% as consumers upgraded to newer models in both emerging and mature markets. China was a particular bright spot where total iPhone sales jumped 68% to 11.9 million units. But the smartphone market overall is maturing. Gartner says the sales in the second quarter grew at their slowest rate since 2013. Smartphone sales in China actually fell for the first time year over year, down 4%. Research director Anshul Gupta saying, quote, China is the biggest country for smartphone sales, representing 30% of total sales of smartphones in the second quarter of 2015. Its poor performance negatively affected the performance of the mobile phone market in the second quarter. The best markets for smartphone growth, the emerging Asia-Pacific region excluding China, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Africa.
And let's now go to Uganda. It was once a land of horrors where Joseph Kony roamed, stalked and killed for nearly 2 decades. But as Sonia Legg reports, northern Uganda is emerging as an agricultural gold mine, drawing in agribusiness investors.
France may be famous for its fields of sunflowers, but it has a potential rival, and it's an unlikely one. David Ojok is one of 70,000 farmers in Uganda growing sunflower seeds. He still finds it hard to believe that 2 decades of conflict led by Joseph Kony are over.
We work freely in the fields now, sometimes until sunset. There's no panic anymore, and that's given us the opportunity to expand our fields and produce more.
Mukwano Industries turns sunflower seeds into cooking oil. Robert Adwek is its operations manager.
When Mukwano came in, there were about 2 mills, small-scale mills. But as we talk now, this small town has more than 28 mills. Our projection for about, in the next 5 years, is to procure over 100 metric tons.
3 out of 4 workers in Uganda have jobs in agriculture, and some of it is highly mechanised. A decade after Kony fled, it's emerging as an agricultural gold mine.
In 2003, we had about 2 or 3 commercial banks. But within Lira now, because of these success stories, we have almost all the banks in the country represented in Lira.
Mukwano now has plans to invest $20 million in the business, and it's not alone. Uganda is already Africa's biggest coffee exporter, and a number of multinationals have also moved in. Kony is still being hunted for his war crimes, but his reign of terror is long gone, and Uganda's fertile lands are finally being put to good use. This is one agricultural sector which is positively blooming.
Some good news from Uganda there. And we're going to be speaking to Innocent Nabasa, who is a business journalist in Uganda, actually at NBS Television, and that's our affiliate TV station. And she's going to be speaking to us about business in Uganda. But before we can go there, over 60 households in Kajiado County's Kora area will now be lit up following the rolling out of solar lights by Green Solar Energy Project. The project seeks to mainly assist women and children in making their work easier. Residents were excited by the donation that will now see them reduce costs of lighting up their homes and allow their children to read at night. The residents have been relying on kerosene-lit lamps for years that have not only affected their health and pockets but posed a danger to accidental fires. Volunteers for Africa has set aside 17 million shillings for the project, and this project aims to reach all the 47 counties by 2016 in areas of need.
Wakati mafuta taa inapokosekana, inabidi huyo mtoto akose kusoma. Wakati mwalimu anampatia kazi ya kwenda kufanya nyumbani, hana njia ya kufanya sababu mafuta taa ni shida kupatikana.
Sasa ile hakuna sitima na bana wana kitu. Hata nataka tengeneza chakula watoto na mwaga shauri hapana wana.
Watu wengi hapa pale naitwa Kora, watu ni mbali na magadi ambayo pale wananunua mafuta ya taa. Kwa hivyo wanatumia, kama mtu anaenda na pikipiki anaenda kwenda na kurudi 600 upande moja, nyingine 6 upande nyingine, 1200, na unakuta mtu akienda na nunua mafuta mengi ndio aweze kuja kukaa kwa muda ya mwezi.
Sasa hii wakati wa jua kama hii miezi ya jua, mtoto anapata faida ya kusoma saa hii ama apatapata nafasi ya kusoma. Lakini hata kwa mvua mtu atakuwa tu kwa mwangaza kwa sababu utakuwa tu na hiyo mwangaza ya hiyo sola.
Jioni unapata kama kuna ndama ambaye analia kwa vile mba mwitu ameingia hapa ndani akaanza kula wale ndama. Na vile ambapo tunajua Masai hawa wanyama ndio livelihood yao. Kwa hivyo hizi taa zinasaidia kuprevent hiyo au umbwa mwitu kuja huku. Taa ambazo zinawekwa pale zinamulika wanyama na wanyama sasa wanaweza kuketi kwa amani usiku. Hakuna disturbances za umbwa mwitu manake wanaogopa taa.
American taxi-hailing company Uber has launched services in Lagos, Nigeria, connecting drivers with riders through its smartphone application. It's hoping Nigeria could be a growing market by offering a reliable and safer alternative for commuters.
Around in Nigeria's bustling city of Lagos can be a nightmare for commuters. Buses and rickshaws dominate the streets and safety is a concern. Nigeria has one of the highest kidnapping rates. Getting in the wrong cab could end up costing a lot more than the agreed fare. Step in Silicon Valley's taxi app Uber. Customers are able to track their driver's location on their phones. Launching in Nigeria, it wants to make travel easier and safer. David Aharia is an Uber driver.
This is a work I love doing because I don't look for customer. It's customer that look for you. With this job, I'm always busy.
Aharia may do it for job satisfaction, but for Uber, the move could prove lucrative. Ebi Atawodi is in charge of Uber Lagos.
It's the New York of Africa. It's 21 million people. Second contributor to one of the biggest GDPs on the continent as a state, not even a country.
Uber operates in around 60 countries and is worth an estimated $40 billion, but it faces competition in sub-Saharan Africa from Easy Taxi. The Brazilian startup is based on a similar concept and has already expanded in the region. Uber has come under criticism over safety concerns regarding driver backgrounds and also privacy issues. But it's showing little sign of slowing down expansion. It's announced plans to average more than 1 million rides a day in India over the next 9 months. It will also invest $1 billion there, matching its investments in China.
And now let's move on to that discussion that we promised we would bring you, and that is regarding local innovation engineering and of course the manufacturing sector here in Kenya. And joining me in studio, we earlier introduced our guests, but joining me in studio is Simon Mwaura Kimani, who is a local innovator, or do we say a gadgets guru? And we also have Dr. Mohamed Omar, who is the Director, Economic Pillar, Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat. Once again, thank you for joining us. I'll start with you, Simon. Yep. You've invented something very creative for the Kenyan market, but kindly take us through it. What is it called? When did the idea strike you that we needed it? And how long have you been doing this?
Okay, to start with, I have formally done a lot of innovation in Kenya and actually have gotten a lot of coverage in several media houses. And this far keep on advancing in each every time that I'm doing every other new thing. But at the end of the day, I needed to settle to one product so that I can actually get a revenue back to it.
So what else have you done besides this?
Besides that, I have done a lot of house automation system where you can be able to use your mobile at a comfort zone and you can be able to operate a lot of appliances in the house wherever you are, and more based more about technology in terms of security based on mobile applications. And,
all right, and so you decided to settle on this. Why
so? I decided to settle this because I looked upon the theft of vehicles that is we're having and a lot of insecurities that we're having. That's why I so much indulge my technology in terms of security. And constantly in terms of car track, it's a business that actually any other company is doing. But as you can see, most of the companies are doing it when they just get a device from the shelf, from China, from wherever. But because it has been my interest and this technology still I have it, and I need to initiate the whole thing to do it locally, and to enable that we have the capacity here, we can be able to deliver our product which can be cost effective, and also a product actually that can be customized in our own needs locally rather than the international standard they have.
All right, so do you have a name for this specific product?
I just call it a Sparkle kind of gadget, but generally just sell it as a car track without really having a trademark on it.
So it's just called Sparkle.
Yep.
All right. And how long did it take you to come up with a concept and then start doing the assembling here yourself?
Yeah. This one has taken me about 3 to 4 months, but basically because of having a lot of technology along with me, it is an easier way to do it because I have been in several technology sectors that has actually enabled me, even being at university, because by the time in the first interview that I was having is one of the media houses, I got an invitation to be at Nairobi University on Fab Lab. And that's where my technology has been nurtured, and this far I have been able even to roll out this technology to other young people and institutions and universities. So
let's just say this, the whole of it is the Sparkle.
Yep.
What are some of the components on it?
Mainly, the main driving components, we call it microprocessors. This is like the engine of the device to run, because that is where you use a computer to do some codings, even the way the other China and other country does. And after that, you can now import that code to that device, to that chip, and actually the chip is able to process all the functionalities that have been coded to do a certain execution in terms of electronics.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you import all of these and then assemble them locally, or are there some that you've customized specifically to suit the Kenyan market?
This will depend upon with the market or the request from the corporate bodies that you can get, because sometimes you may be having a lot of customers, you cannot be able to deliver the batch that may be required. But when the demand is not so high, I just import the board after sending the file to China for the production.
You import the motherboards?
I make the design here. Then I send the file to China via net, and then it's the way that you can like give a soft copy to get a hard copy. So I just design my circuit, then I send the file, then they send the board here for me. Then I use the local guys here. I have in the office, I'm having a lot of young people. Then I train them on how to do the soldering, then we can have a complete product on our
All right.
table, yeah.
So you're saying you design, you do the designs and then send them to China, and then they're able to send you already customized motherboards. For you, how has that experience been like? Do you think that the fact that you're doing the designs here and having to send them all the way to China and then bring them back over already made, is it affordable for you?
I can say right, because one of the key things that I want to drive home is that we have the capacity here. And for me, I have the passion for technology.
Yes.
And this now to sound to the government that we have the capacity for the young people who can be able to do a lot of technologies there. So once they have the interest and indulge in investing on it, I believe we have a take to this nation to the next level. And this is just basically of what I can do. I have quite a lot of things that I've ever done, and the many things that I'm aiming to do based on the
We'll get to what you plan on doing and also the other things that you've done. But let me bring in Dr. Mohamed Omar. Doctor, he's talked about, government enabling, an environment that can grow these innovations. And Vision 2030 as well is capitalizing on doing exactly that. But just take us through some of the initiatives that have been put in place to ensure that the innovation environment in Kenya is as vibrant as can get.
Okay, first of all, Vision 2030 has recognized science, technology, and innovation as a key enabler in achieving our targets and objectives with respect to social economic development. So that recognition is there, both with respect to the development framework, the Vision 2030 itself, and the implementation tool, which is a 5-year medium-term plan. Now, a number of initiatives are able to help what Simon or others like him are doing.
Yes.
The first one is actually to have the regulatory and policy framework. That one has to be there for us to be able to have incubation centers, innovation centers, to be able to support investment in the area of engineering and innovation. That is the first one. The second is specific initiatives and flagship projects that support. One is the industrial parks or SME parks, which is there in Vision 2030. The idea is that you're able to bring together small enterprises, startups, innovation companies in an area, in a geographical area where they can share utilities, they can share knowledge, they can share consultancy and infrastructure, including IT infrastructure, so that there's some synergy that goes on there. The second one is the proposed special economic zones, which now gives them incentives. It gives them the ability to transfer knowledge from those, because a special economic zone is expected to attract foreign direct investment. So you will have experienced companies alongside startups, so that they're able now to share information and knowledge and therefore advance their skills. And the other one is, of course, the pre-existing export processing zone. The EPZ has a number of provisions to support enterprises. So there are so many. The other one is now, because you need not just the legal and the policy, you also need the infrastructure. Of course, the ICT infrastructure is supportive, but also the other human capital in terms of training engineers and technicians. That is a specific flagship projects under Vision 2030, because industrialization and manufacturing being a central theme in Vision 2030, you need the people to be able to do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
You've talked about industrial parks, but for a long time, I think we've been really waiting for the sprouting of Konza City, for instance, which has been one of the top flagship projects in regard to achieving Vision 2030. Do you think we are behind schedule on this?
I think you happen to have mentioned Konza. There's a range of projects under Vision 2030. I think in this current medium-term plan, we have 182. Now, some are huge and mega, and Konza falls under that. And that, I think we need to appreciate that it takes a long time to do LAPSET, for example, and Konza. So a lot of planning and feasibility studies and engaging potential investors goes into that. And additionally, you also need to have the basics catered for. Right now, the basic infrastructure is going on. The master plan is done. The land has been acquired. So the government is doing the basics, roads and infrastructure into the park and outside, the utilities such as water, electricity, and all those things. So I don't think we are behind schedule if we appreciate the magnitude and the complexity of the project. There are projects that are smaller in scale and are already achieved.
True.
But Konza, LAPSET, and the like take a long time. If you look at, you need NEMA approval, and there's a process going on.
Yes.
You need physical planning approval from the Ministry of Lands, and all that has been done. So there's a catalogue of successes, but we haven't come to the actual construction, and that was meant to take place because you are actually developing a new city, an integrated city, and that has financial center, ICT, everything.
Right.
Yeah, so it takes quite time,
so it's
a long time.
Take some time.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe in the next few years we're going to see some work starting there officially?
I think we are at that juncture where now the actual work is supposed to start. The preliminary arrangements and plans and the acquisition of the consultants and contractors are all in place. We are going to see, God willing, over the next few years, we're going to see that happen.
All right. And we can hope that at the end of it all, it's going to be boosting our local innovators here. But let's take up a story here on innovation in Kenya. Taxes on inputs used to make electronic devices are to blame for the sluggish growth of Kenya's ICT sector. According to key stakeholders, taxes are making locally manufactured devices uncompetitive in the global market. And innovators now want the government to scrap off the 25% input duty charged on imported ICT input devices. Abby Agena did a story on this and also looking at the key challenges, and brings us this report.
The country's ICT sector has continued to receive glowing tributes not only from within Kenya but also from global players as well. But the story is rather different for those who are innovators trying to compete with some of the world leaders such as China.
Importing the same.
Meet Simon Karaoke, an engineer who says his biggest hurdle has been sourcing for cheap raw materials.
Importing the same boat here, it costed me to pay 25,000, which is uncomparable depending on the production that you're really looking forward to.
The same story is shared with Mohamed Bare, a young innovator who has invented a communications gadget dubbed Brick that allows consumers to access internet simply and reliably.
Something like the import duty adds, on an average, something like 25 to 35% of the cost of the product. And some of these components that they are making us pay import duty for, Kenya will never manufacture. Things like lithium batteries, things like this component, which need very heavy industry to do that. So we need some of those components to be zero rated in terms of the VAT, in terms of the import duty, so that the price of these components can get cheaper.
One of the things that we could maybe encourage the government policies to look around is to make these ICT-related devices and chips.
Innovators are now calling on the government to scrap off duty on ICT imports to spur growth of the local innovations as well as increase employment.
China is getting expensive, and we need to move this production to Kenya. If we keep on producing some of the parts in China, the cost is going to go up. It's going to be unrealistic for us to stay afloat. We need to develop those systems here locally.
Kenya has been punishing local innovators, especially on the hardware sector, where if you import components to assemble here and they give people jobs, you are a taxed devil. But if you import a whole unit, you are not taxed.
The ecosystem is not as developed as we would want, but you realize that one good thing about that is it gives us an opportunity to basically innovate.
They also call for the establishment of fabrication laboratories to give innovators a place to nurture their ideas.
Hardware is the next really big challenge that we need to be looking at.
The first kind of this has been set up by Gearbox, but Dr. Kamau Gashigi, the founder of Gearbox, says creating more centers is critical in positioning Kenya as a manufacturing hub for devices.
Well, manufacturing and engineering in Kenya continues to take shape, with majority of graduates going the ICT way. But the biggest challenge has been around an enabling environment as well as taxation issues. Now, most innovators are pushing for the government to give them more tax incentives so that their local inventions can compete favorably on the global stage. Abby Agena, KTN Business.
Thanks, Abby, for that report. And he did mention quite something in there, the 25% import. Do you think it should be scrapped, maybe? So you can be able to do this import-free?
Exactly, because you'll find like importing the whole unit, it's quite cheaper rather than importing the component as well as coming to assemble here, where you want to nurture people to do it so that I can have that ideal idea on what you're doing. So to me, I really support that idea because it will actually help us a lot.
All right. Dr. Mohammed, you're coming from a background where you're maybe in a position that is drafting some regulatory policies as well. Do you think that this is workable from your standpoint?
I think from a policy perspective, there are already a number of initiatives and incentives. Even I mentioned the kind of initiatives that are there under Vision 2030.
Yes.
The export processing zone is already there, and any kind of an initiative can be there. Special economic zone, the bill is there, and it has provisions for incentives, tax rebate, concessions, the ability to be able to transfer capital. So there are a lot of initiatives that are there under Vision 2030 that's going to help. And I think the ICT sector in general is gaining a lot of support. I know that there are a number of multinationals that are working with local colleges and universities to offer grants to get to give apprenticeship programs to be able to support. Yeah, but I think we have a raft of a specific case can be looked at, and overall with incentives as a country, as a developing country, it's very important. It has worked for many. However, we need to look at the cost-benefit analysis of particular incentives. So that's why we have dedicated and designated zones for special economic zones and export processing zones who enjoy specific incentives. And I think those provisions can also be used to help out. Konza Technology City will have that kind of incentive once the enterprises. Simons can locate himself there and get the support that is already under the Konza Technology Bill.
Right. I'll come to you, Simon. First, maybe towards the end of this, you're going to take us through how exactly you assemble from the time someone comes and says, you know, I need a tracking device on my vehicle. Yeah. How exactly does that process go? But before we go into that, from your standpoint, I'm sure there are challenges that you've faced as a local innovator and one who is exactly engineering these gadget innovations. What are some of them that you faced?
One of the key things that I can maybe start with is to say the confidence of Kenyan consuming your technology in terms of their applications. That has been the key challenge, one thing. And that has now made me to come even having my cell numbers on the board and my company so that somebody can be convinced this is my technology, I have done it from the time it is started until the application of the product. Another area is like the duty that we have said, once importing this gadget to have a complete product, then you find the pricing and making of this is not competitive with the same product in the market. Right. Another challenge is, as you know, mass production versus a lower production. Then once you have your mass production, the product actually of production can actually go low and now make your sales price actually to go higher. Now, in terms of finances, that's also a hiccup. They can maybe delay you not to have that mass production for the cheaper cost of your production. All right, then those are just some of the challenges. Yeah. So let me get to that point where I need a tracking device on my vehicle. Yeah. What is the entire process of having this done, and how affordable is it? One of the key challenges when you want to come with the first product is actually having it done in the first place. But once you've done, it's like having a photocopy of the same. So you don't have to struggle so much to have it like it's done in the first time. So when you're done in the first time, then the product, you keep on producing it. All right. So it goes without saying, when I see my customers keep on asking, so I range, if I have about 10 devices on the shelf and my customer consumed 5, so once I remove 5, then I need to replace the last 5. So an instant thing happens when a client just requests for the same device, then I can be able to deliver. But when it comes now to the mass production, then I have maybe to have a time frame for that because still I don't have it in stock. So do you sell them wholesome to the people who install them, or you do the installation yourself? Currently I do installation. You do installation, yes. And that's what I was asking. Yep. From the time someone comes in, what exactly goes on? Because I'm seeing several motherboards on here, but what exactly do these do, and onto the final connection process? Okay, let me just take you to the process where I start maybe sketching from the computer. Yes, very briefly. This circuit, as you can see them, it's a software-based traces that you normally draw on the computer. I think you're going to flip it to the other side. So yeah, you just draw these traces on the computer. It's a software-based. Then you can maybe simulate all the traces, because having the technology, having having the knowledge of technology with you, you can be able now to tell why this one should connect to the other one, because still electronically I have that knowledge to do that. And once I'm done and simulate my software is working, then I can be able now to send the same board to China and have now the hard copy on it. This is now the hard copy of what I've done.
Yes.
After I'm done, the same components come along with the board, and now my guys can be able now to assemble, depend upon the reflect of the software, they can be able now to interpret the component where it's supposed to be and the footprint consigned with the press.
Exactly.
And after the board is done, then you'll find this is the kind of the work this board will be done, because initially it was similar of the same.
Yes.
Once the component are stuffed in the board, then it become a live product.
All right.
As you can see here, we have our microprocessor, as I was telling you. Then on the computer, still the same thing. You know, you're gonna code the mode of execution of the processes that you want your device entirely to be able to react on the outside world.
Yes.
Then the same code, then you upload it to the processor, and it's able now to respond to the various components with the board and able to execute or have been intended to do.
All right, and at what point do we get there?
At this point, before you send this final board,
Right there. Yeah.
this one, this one. Before you make a send of these boards, you need to be very sure that everything is working and in order. So locally, we manually
do a number of prototypes.
Yes, we do several kind of prototypes locally, and we approve in terms of local production. This is the way you can be able to do it on a manual based.
Right.
One board, just for example, you can be able to tell the board is working. So once you send it, because you don't know those errors of maybe repaying, because anytime you make a mere error, it just refers to the whole fabrication of the same. So that's why I locally now will be able to do this. And
so
once
you do
it's done,
several prototypes to ensure there's no error.
Yes.
Okay. And at the end of it all, this is what you get.
After end of all, this is what I have. And once I'm done with all my testing and my prototype, then the game ends. And now it's just making an email, produce more boards, and the same process continues. So initially, that's when you need to engage your minds into all the support.
So the car tracking system is already assembled.
Yeah.
How affordable is it?
It's affordable to every person that's come along maybe to request, because more of my business is based on referrals. But with the due support, maybe that's the way that I was saying with the government.
So what's the current price range for the tracking system
it's 20,000 for now.
20,000 for now.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll give the final word to Dr. Mohamed Omar. We have very many local innovators like Simon who are doing several great innovations. One of them happens to be Juliana Rotich of Brick and Ushahidi, and she's come up as well with something that I think can allow everybody who is using the internet to, be able to access data offline, no matter where you are. And those are some of the great innovations that we're having in the country today. But how best can we support these local innovators?
Okay, we're aspiring to be middle-income country, and generally middle-income countries dedicate a substantial proportion of their GDP to research and innovation. And we've been able, and we have achieved to be able to dedicate at least 1% of the GDP to innovation. Now the question is, a lot of these innovators are coming with very good prototypes. And I think the challenge and the support they need is, first of all, patenting, support in patenting their innovations, but also to scale up from prototype to commercialization and marketing. Venture capitalists and people who are trying to buy equity into that will only see the sense if they feel that there's significant scale in terms of potential profitability. And I think that is the area. The other one is, of course, in terms of policy, the kind of support that they need when they're starting up, seed capital, grants, mentoring, and advice from experienced executives, for example, as we also go and do the patenting and the commercialization of. I think those are the areas that they really need to be supported. And then from the curriculum, going back, because there's always this complaint that there's a disconnect between industry and our universities and colleges.
Yes.
So we need to start off so that there is a program where the industry executives are involved actually in the curriculum development in addition to academics, and they're able to deliver so that by the time they're finishing their studies, they're actually ready, whether they're entrepreneurs or for work. But in terms of people who are innovating, I think it's basically the patenting, the commercialization, the actual marketing, as well as the mentoring that they really need as up-and-coming executives.
And this one is aside from, you know, the whole innovation and manufacturing support. It's from an economic standpoint. Kenya per capita at the moment is at about 1,300, but the dream is to get to 4,000. Is this achievable?
Of course, I think if it's not achievable, we will have failed. It is achievable, but a number of things need to fall into place. As you know, we have taken initiative to improve ease of doing business. You know, the length of registering companies, the time it takes to actually connect electricity, the actual energy generation and distribution, so that in order for manufacturing to happen, you have to have affordable and accessible energy. And if you think about Vision 2030, over the last few years, we've been able to add over 1,200 megawatts to the national grid. Yeah?
And that is very important.
That is very important. So I think if everything, all the infrastructural projects, the energy projects, the human capital development are done, then we are able to achieve that. Because the intention from the beginning was not to reach the lower middle income, which is like 1,000 per capita income, but to hit 3,500, 4,000.
Or even exceed it.
So if everything that we have put into place happens, then we can hit that target.
Right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming to speak to us on Business Today about engineering and manufacturing as well as innovation across the country. We've been speaking to Simon Mwaura Kimani, who is a local innovator and gadgets guru. He's innovated Sparkle, and also Dr. Mohamed Omar, who is the Director Economic Pillar Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat. And that has been an interesting conversation. But now let's connect to Uganda and let's find out how the markets there have been performing throughout the week. And Innocent Nabasa, can you hear me? All right, Innocent, what have been the big stories in Uganda this entire week?
Looking at the economic situation right here in Uganda, it's a little tough with Uganda having very few investments, especially in the capital markets. And of course, you know what is happening. The shilling is depreciating further every now and then. Well, it is common knowledge. Most currencies are depreciating against the dollar. But this is the time the Ugandan shilling has actually depreciated this much. Looking at today, it's buying at 3,585 and selling at 3,595, which is the highest it has gone. And of course, looking at the inflation rate, it was at 4.9 in June this year, and in July at 5.4. You can see it is a very, very sharp curve. And of course, the Bank of Uganda has come in every now and then to try and stabilize the economy. And currently the CBR is at 16. And in July it was at 14.5. So you can see it has really come in so much to help us stabilize our economy.
All right, you're saying the CBR is now at 16%. What is the exchange rate for the dollar and the Uganda shilling? What does $1 translate into in Uganda shillings?
It is at 3,585, the highest it has gone.
Well, that is quite very high. But then now let's look at some of the stories that have made headlines. You know, there's been the Uganda-Kenya sugar controversy going on. How has Uganda taken that?
Well, of course, it is still on like it is in Kenya, though there is more hot air in Kenya as more than Uganda. Ugandans are really happy about it. The President Uhuru Kenyatta came out and, I mean, we are happy. We're producing a lot of sugar, and without exporting to our neighbors, our closest country, it was a great challenge. Farmers are so happy about it, but of course, we are happy This is something that made us sad with the ban some time back, and this is something great, and we do appreciate the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. We're glad.
Well, thank you so much, Innocent, and we wish you all the best. Hope the business environment can look brighter next week, seeing the exchange rate against the dollar is at 3,580. Oh my goodness, that is quite very high, but thank you so much, Innocent. We appreciate that. Innocent Nabasa is a business journalist with NBS TV in Uganda, giving us an update on how the markets are performing. And let's take a quick look at the markets here in Kenya. The biggest gainers of the day, British American Tobacco, and we're also seeing Mumias Sugar Company among the biggest gainers. Express as well as Serena and Unga are the biggest gainers of today. And the top gainer, that is British American Tobacco, has gained about 6.41%, with a share going at 830 shillings. And the biggest movers of the day today, we also had Equity Bank that has moved the largest volume of shares, that is 36.76 million shares. Looking at the market capital, it goes up to about 140.08 billion. There you go. Safaricom also among the biggest movers of the day, and KCB among the biggest movers too. Cooperative Bank and Kenya Re among the biggest movers. But let's also not forget that the Kenya shilling did strengthen today, but it's still vulnerable. We'll be looking at how that turns out next week. But thank you all for watching this edition of Business Today. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Let's do business again at 9 p.m. during KTN News. But more news is coming up now at the top of the hour, and we'll be having Leo Mashinani and Mbiu at the top of the hour.
Ndio ina focus hapa.
Yes, nakupata. Hujambo mtazamaji na karibu kwa taarifa za Mbiu ya KTN, ambapo tunakuletea taarifa zinazojiri wakati. Kwanza kabisa tunaanza mahakamani. Mhubiri wa kanisa la Neno Evangelism James Ng'ang'a ameachiliwa kwa dhamana ya shilingi milioni 1 na mdhamini wa kiasi sawa na hicho katika